Roger Daltrey. Buck Taylor, I don't know who that is. Senator Robert Byrd. Wes Studi, he's a famous actor. Robert Duvall, Jeff Daniels, Vera Serene. Bob Dylan, huh?
Yeah, it's Bob Dylan.
That's from the Jesse James movie.
Yep. And the Shroud of Turin. The most important guy in the world.
I said, yeah, he goes, I want to be dressed like my great-great-grandfather. And I was thinking like the movie Glory, you know. He said, no, he was a slave in Georgia in the first months of the Civil War. He decided he was going to run for the North. And he took off. And he said, after about a week, they found him and sent him back to the plantation.
Wow.
And put him in shackles for 2 weeks, teach him a lesson. So he said, that's what I want to do.
And he put shackles on. I just
Yeah.
wow.
So it was pretty intense.
Cool. That's awesome. Why don't you give me a tour? This is Rob Gibson. He's the guy to get your Gettysburg photographs taken. He is the.
I've been collecting for about 20 years, I guess. I got into this strictly by accident, like most people who find, I guess, their passion in life. Basically, I was an engineer at General Motors, but ever since I was a young kid, I had just have a great love of old photographs. I was never one of these photographic geeks. I was never in the darkroom, you know, just strictly point and shoot cameras. I got involved in Civil War reenacting after a couple of years of doing that. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to learn how photographers did this in the 1860s? And strictly as a hobby, just a little bit of my own curiosity, I started goofing around with the process. I found original manuals that date back to 1862, and that's what gave me the formulas to
Oh, so you actually used those manuals to come up with your formulas?
Sure. I'll show them to you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Okay, this was the one that I found that led me to get to the process and get it to working. This was 1862 here.
Wow.
You see these stains on the back.
Yeah, it's the foxing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually silver nitrate stains. The same ones I get on my fingers, so obviously the guy must have spilled something. And you notice he's got all his handwritten notes throughout it.
That is unbelievable.
And these are the same formulas I use today, so just as dangerous. And you can see
he's got all his handwritten.
Notes. And basically this is the recipes for creating the various chemicals that are needed to do the process.
Right.
I'm pretty much creating film every time I take a photograph. So unlike even photographs in the 1920s or 30s, you purchased film or you purchased plates that were already made. You then took and you put those in your camera. When you got back, you developed it. With this kind of process, you're taking a plain piece of glass or a plain piece of metal, you're sensitizing it in something called silver nitrate. You're creating first an emulsion called collodion. You then have to take the photograph and develop it right away in the field. So much more, I guess, what's the word I want to say? A lot more clumsy of a process. You have to bring a lot of stuff with you. And you have to have that chemical background, too, to be able to do all this. It's just not a matter of pointing the camera and shooting. You have to have what I say, mind of a chemist, the eye of an artist, and the patience of a saint.
And your chemicals are all here, and a lot of these original bottles too.
For some of the bottles are original. With some of the chemicals, we do use screw tops. Most of the stuff they had were like the ground glass stoppers, which certainly left a lot to be desired with safety of transporting them and longevity of it. This is our dark room back here. This is where we sensitize and develop all the plates.
Oh wow.
So when you come in here, basically you see every step of the operation. We first coat the plate with collodion. It's a mixture of nitrocellulose with ether.
So you don't want that bottle around during Thanksgiving, I guess?
No, none of these actually. You then take and you put it into a tank of silver nitrate, and it happens here in the darkroom. You can see there's a sort of a dipper where the plate sits on here. It goes down into this bath. It's closed up. It's got to sit in there 3 to 5 minutes. We then take and we pull that out, put the plate into a plate holder. Now once it's light sensitive, it'll be glowing white with chemicals, with silver nitrate. We then put it in this plate holder. This is basically a light-proof holder that goes on the back of the camera.
And that's part of an original camera then? And
yes.
This,
This camera is 1862. If you take a look here in the back, the image is projected upside down and backwards. The way we focus is strictly by moving the bellows back and forth.
Awesome. Okay, I can see. Yeah, cool.
And if I step down there,
All those guys are all boarded up around here during the filming and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
so inside the camera is nothing more than a big empty box.
Wild man, I guess.
There's no moving parts really.
Huh.
Just strictly
Just the lens,
the
really.
lens itself, which is the brains of the operation. This lens is 1867, stated. It's a Dahlmeyer lens. At the time this lens was brand new back then, it was $540, which would have been enough to get you probably a house in a small town back then.
And how did they have the expertise to make the curvature of this? I mean, that's what blows my mind.
Yeah, in the 1850s, late 1850s, early 1860s, a man named Petzval came up with a formula as to the curvature of the glass, what size it would produce when it projected the image. And basically they could finally, for the first time, start using mathematics to create these lenses rather than just sheer guesswork. And each lens, in this case, this one's got 4 elements in it. So it's actually 4 separate pieces of glass. So really master craftsmen that were grinding these by hand to be able to project such a sharp image.
Wow.
Now that plate holder with the wet plate on it would actually go on the back of the camera like so.
Yep.
We would put the lens cap on, we'd have our subject all ready. We would pull out what's known as a dark slide. And over here is basically a light-proof trap.
Okay.
And that does make sure that no light sneaks through this little slot here.
Right.
To make the exposure, we simply take the lens cap off and count. Today's case, it would be probably 17, 16 seconds. We then put the cap back on and put the dark slide back in. Now this is all done strictly by experience. There is no light meter. There is no book of reference to go tell you how many seconds to do this for. It's a matter of knowing your chemistry, knowing your developer, and then basically reading the light and determining just how sensitive the plates are and how much light is needed to make that exposure where you've got nice deep dark tones in the photograph, but you also have the highlights and the mid-tones. So it's quite a balancing act.
How long did it take you to kind of master this? I mean, because
I guess I'm working on it.
Really? I mean, you're doing a pretty good job. I mean, this whole wall.
Usually,
that's just one section.
It took me a couple years to get where I was doing really good out in the field. And then moving indoors was a whole other can of worms because the exposure time is just so much longer. Even though we do have a big skylight here, it's just not the same as shooting outdoors. If I was to go outdoors today on a bright day and take a photograph, I'd be shooting probably 3 seconds out there today. So today we'd be shooting about 17, so you can see quite a long exposure time. Of course, that means everybody has to be absolutely still during that too.
And part of the reason too, one thing you told me, the reason why most of them aren't smiling.
Oh, it wasn't considered proper.
Yeah.
The masters of the era before that, the painters, when they wanted to capture the true character of the person, you saw somebody that was very dignified, you know, standing with this regal pose, usually against a big column or something like that sorts. And they wanted to convey this this idea of wealth, of knowledge, And as one of the contemporaries of the era said, they didn't want to see some grinning idiot. So today I guess we're a society of grinning idiots because everybody smiles, of course, for photographs.
Well, you kind of see that with the way the country's going, so that's probably
Yes.
true. Yeah. And this is actually a period armrest too, right here.
Yeah, that's a posing chair, and that could be used for either seated like a regular chair, or you put your arm up on it. These other strange looking things here, Jamie, these are headrests. And they actually went behind those that were standing in the photograph. Didn't matter if you were President Lincoln or some little snot-nosed kid, everybody got one of these behind them.
Nice.
So basically it's not a clamp, it's simply a reference point. You keep that against the back of your head during the exposure and you'll stay still.
No way I can alter that to actually use it for holding people I don't like, or?
I could rent this to you, actually.
Oh, awesome, cool. We'll have to work that out later.
Now when we go out in the field, this is something, some of your...
And these are all period authentic cameras.
All my cameras are original. Now this thing I'm getting out right now, I'll give you a second to set this up. This is actually a reproduction that I made from original drawings. But this is a portable darkroom.
Oh, wow.
And the way this works, let's see.
And normally that would be like a cloth, right? Usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually painted cloth of some sorts. We strictly use this for when we have to go off and do a shoot, whether it's a movie shoot or just for our own.
Is it hard to find this particular something authentic along the lines of this, the darkroom? Have you ever seen any?
No, I've seen one or two in museums. That's it.
Rob.
Because it became one of those wear items that eventually, because you're dealing with wet chemicals and everything, you know, it would get thrown away. As this is no longer useful by the time you get to the 1880s and 90s, when you need to haul something like this around.
Right.
You know, guys just toss this stuff. Thank goodness they didn't throw the cameras away. Even though your usefulness might have been over with, they were beautiful objects, so they kept them around. But this same kind of thing here. This is a portable darkroom. This is a plate holder for the one camera over there. As you can see here, your glass plate or tin plate would go in there. And this allows us to go in the field, sensitize and develop photographs. My light source, of course, would be the sun coming through here.
Yep.
I would then put my hands through these little sleeves here, put the black cloth over my head and be able to peer through this little porthole, this little eyepiece here.
So that's how you did that Bigfoot photograph?
Actually, I used another
thing.
one. I wish I did have this one at the time. This one's by far the most portable one we have, so
right.
This is great. But it took us a long time to come up with this design. Very, very, very portable compared to what a lot of guys that do Civil War reenactments and that use today, which are huge big boxes. So
right.
This is pretty high tech for the 1860s.
Cool. Cool, thank you. Awesome.
All right.